Avatar Fire and Ash, the third installment in the most incredible money printing franchise of all time, is finally here. Now, with these films, there's always talk around do they have any cultural impact? And I don't have anything new to say on that front. All I can say is that, cultural impact or not, these films put butts in seats, and for good reason. James Cameron is simply the king of spectacle and blockbuster filmmaking. Nobody in the movie business is able to wholly transport an audience to an entirely different world quite like him. And that is, at the core, why I love these movies as much as I do. Because for those 3+ hours that I'm sitting in that big IMAX theater, I forget about all of the troubles going on in the world, and I feel fully immersed in the world that James Cameron has created. And a lot of that has to do with Cameron's attention to detail in the technical craft of this world. Everything is just jaw-dropping gorgeous. The CGI here in Fire and Ash is probably the best of all time, and I know that's a cliche thing to say. The new Avatar movie has the best visual effects of all time, but that is simply just the truth. Everything he is able to accomplish with the CG lighting, with the detailed motion capture, with the creatures, with the water, all of it is just otherworldly. And also, Cameron is just simply operating at a level unseen in Hollywood when it comes to scale and scope. Everything is just at the grandest of levels. No one does it like him at creating spectacle in a blockbuster. And that's another reason why I feel so immersed into this world, because I feel like I'm right there. Everything just fully enveloping me while I am in that theater. The cinematography of this world, I know, is just all digital, but Jesus Christ, it is just so gorgeous. This world is just beautiful to explore, beautiful to look at, and I'm so glad that we returned to some of the forest locations and we got this new ash location, because it offers up so much more visually that I felt like was just a little bit lacking in the way of water, because we spent the entire film in that water area. The fact that we are going to other areas of the world of Pandora just made it a treat for the eyes. The action sequences that he crafts are also just spellbinding, and that adds to the level of spectacle that you just cannot get in any other film, in any other franchise. So that aspect I also fully loved. I felt fully immersed and on the edge of my seat in each action set piece. Everything Cameron dreams up is just incredible. And that's not to say that this film is without its flaws. It is certainly weaker in the writing and the storytelling department than in the technical craft of things, and that's been the case in all of the Avatar movies, but that has never bothered me too much, because like I said, I am just fully invested in this world that I can recognize those flaws but not be taken out of the incredible spectacle of it all. But I will say that some of those flaws did stick out to me a little bit more this time around, because I do think that certain story beats and character beats mirror one for one some of the stuff that happened in The Way of Water. I especially felt that with Jake and Loak's relationship. It felt like a lot of the tension between the two was just stuff that we have already gone through in The Way of Water. So it did feel like we were retreading some familiar territory and repeating some of those beats. So the 3+ hour runtime, I did start to feel a little bit more in this film than I have in the previous two, because of that repetition. And while I do think that some of these character relationships and the characters in general could have been fleshed out a little bit more and had a little bit more added depth and complexity, especially with this big runtime, I don't think that this film does nothing with its characters like other people are saying. I felt like there was quite a lot of new stuff that these characters had to grapple with, especially Jake and Neytiri in regards to Spider. I thought that what happens with his character presented a very interesting foil and a very interesting rift in the relationship, especially between him and Jake, and kind of how that culminates in this one scene in this forest that really impacted me emotionally. And, you know, in this film, Spider is kind of made into a main character, and for a little bit, I wasn't fully on board with that, but once that scene hits, oh man, I was in it and I understood why Cameron was making him such a focal point. And with Jake and Neytiri's relationship too, I think there's a lot there about love and all of this loss around them that they have to deal with. And I thought that how their relationship progressed in this movie was quite beautiful, because I didn't really feel like there was much there in the way of water, and that's especially because Neytiri really was in the background for the vast majority of that film, so it was nice having her become a big focal point in this one as well and have her get this full arc. So I really enjoyed that because I love Neytiri as a character specifically. One of the biggest positives for me with this film is in expanding the world of Pandora, we get this introduction of the Ash tribe and their leader Varong, and I just loved every moment she was on screen. She was just such a magnetic and charismatic villainous presence. Una Chaplin frickin' nailed it in her performance, because I could not take my eyes off of her every time she was on screen. And I just loved the chaos that ensued because of her and because of her tribe. And I also think her relationship with Quaritch made him a far more interesting character in this film than he has been in the previous two, whereas in those last two films, I didn't really feel like he was that interesting. He was just this evil guy out to go get Jake. But with this wild, sexy, and seductive relationship between the two, it adds a lot more fun to his character, and Stephen Lang is able to go a bit more wild in his performance this time around, which just made him also a much more magnetic presence on screen. And I also do think that they add a lot more layers to his character, especially in relation to his son Spider. I think that there is a lot more there under the surface in this film than there has been in the previous two, so I'm really thankful for that. I do think that the storytelling is a little scattershot because there's just so much going on, and this world is so massive and the scale is just of such grand proportions. We are just going from this to this to this to this, and some of those things that we would go to I would find significantly less interesting than what preceded them. Like all of the Tulkun drama with Paya Khan, I wasn't really feeling that very much. I thought that a lot of that could have been trimmed out and we would have gotten the same plot progression as we did without a lot of that fat, and that would have helped with some of the repetition and some of the pacing problems that I had, because there were definitely lulls in the story whenever something like that would occur. I did also feel like the ending was a little bit abrupt, and that's because we really do just go from climax to snap of the fingers, bam, we are wrapping the story up. I felt like there could have been a few minutes added into the falling action to make that transition a little bit more smooth. Cut out some of that Tulkun stuff and pad out the runtime in that section a little bit. But despite those flaws in the storytelling and in the writing, I just can't help but be immersed in this world and be in awe of everything on screen, with the spectacle, the action, the world building, the scale, the CGI, all of it. It is just so impressive on a technical level that I am able to forget about a lot of those storytelling flaws, and I understand if some of you can't. But for me, my personal opinion, I just love being in this world, being with these characters. So because of all of that, I would give Avatar: Fire and Ash 4 stars. Alright, that is it for my review of Avatar: Fire and Ash, everybody. Let me know down below what you thought of this film. Were you disappointed by it because of those writing flaws, or were you just fully entranced in the entire experience like I was once again? So let me know all your thoughts down below. And also, I am seeing The Secret Agent later today, so I will be doing a review for that one in a day or two. So if you like this video, you would like to see that one, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.